chapter. So let's welcome Pradnya.
Good morning, everyone. How is everybody doing? Good? It's so good to see people in person, right? Over the last couple of years, we all transitioned from remote work to hybrid work to, in some cases, on-site work. So it feels great to be in person for this conference. Pandemic has taught us many lessons. And as much as we would like to put the pandemic in the past and make it part of our history, we are still in the transition period to move towards the new normal. This quote from Intel's co-founder, Robert Noyce, really resonates with me in this type of environment. Don't be encumbered by history. Just go out and do something wonderful. And this conference is a great start to go out and do something wonderful. So thank you for being here. Let me start with talking a little bit about myself, and thank you for the introduction, Lauren. Who am I as a person? I always like to start with a personal story. So I am first-generation immigrant. I moved to the United States about 18 years ago from India to pursue graduate school. My first degree is in neurobiology, believe it or not. And with that, I worked at Pfizer for a couple years, but life had other plans for me. I moved to Portland following my husband here, who also works at Intel. Again, I've been in Portland and Oregon for about 13 years out of that 18 years, so it's safe for me to call myself an Oregonian now, right? With my husband, I have two wonderful kids. Both of them are competitive swimmers, so when I'm not working, I'm literally chauffeuring them around for swim meets. That's a full-time job. And I have a dog who is more needy than my kids, so still a puppy and very much taking all our attention. What I've done so far, I talked about my first degree. When I came to Portland, I did an MBA with our very own Portland State University, which is our sponsor here as well. After that, I worked in OHSU, I worked in finance, and then I finally joined Slalom Consulting, which is our another sponsor here. Working for Slalom as a management consultant, I worked across multiple companies here in Portland, Oregon, until I finally landed at Nike. And after Nike, for the last 6 years, I have been with Intel. So I can basically call myself a scientist-turned-technologist, a huge career shift, but sometimes as women, we have to take those bigger leaps, those bigger transitions in our life to make sure that we have both a personal life and a career. What drives me? I am very passionate about data and analytics. My thesis also was based on statistical modeling. So my data journey started from very early on when I did my master's. Since then, I have been promoting data. I have been advocating for data scientists, for data analysts, and even mentoring students through Women in Big Data, doing college recruiting, as well as I started a community of practice within Intel, which combines program managers as well as data scientists and data analysts, giving them a platform to share ideas. Along with that, I am a transformative leader. I have worked in digital transformation for many years, just transforming organizations to become more data-driven and more data-centric. That's me in a nutshell. I work for Intel, and our motto is to touch the life of every individual on this planet through our technology. And I want to share a little bit about our technology here.
We are experiencing the fastest tech transformation in modern history. As the creators of the technology the world builds on, Intel is innovating faster than ever to solve the world's most significant technology challenges and put that value in the systems, software, and ecosystem solutions you trust every day. Thousands of companies take a faster path to AI at scale using their flexible, Intel-based technology. Our leadership in silicon-based security and confidential computing continues to help you share data with reduced risk. Groundbreaking process and packaging technologies let us build entirely new ways to compute for leaps forward in user experiences and capabilities. And now, we can offer that technology to the world through our foundry. Decades of work in open source software continues with our ongoing initiative to maximize code reuse across any hardware, no matter which company builds it. And we're collaborating with industry and government to move the world to a low carbon economy. Every day, our world-class architects and engineers do something wonderful. So you can too.
Do something wonderful. So here I am to share Intel's AI journey. And it may appear so because, yes, we do produce AI solutions for our customers, that we have it easy. So I want to start with this slide. Every business today is thinking about AI. They are thinking about how can they make AI as their strategic priority and execute to AI. But the reality is more than 85% of AI projects fail because they do not deliver desired results. And as much as this is alarming, again, we need to think about where do we apply AI. So in my today's talk, I'm going to talk about 3 areas where we thought why our AI projects failed in the first place. And I'm going to share a framework to start your AI journey for successful implementation and adoption. Like Raquel said in the beginning, it's not just about delivering the solution, but it's also about adopting the solution. So let's start with what is AI, right? We use these big words for AI, but at the end of the day, AI is basically a mathematical model that adapts with data, right? It's as good as the data it provides you, right? It is not a silver bullet, right? Not every problem needs an AI solution. Sometimes you can solve a problem using simple automation. You can solve a problem using BI versus AI, and it is much more cost effective. So you really need to identify what are those use cases for AI. And AI in general, right, you can use it for multiple applications. However, there has been a lot of conversation about artificial general intelligence versus artificial narrow intelligence, right? General intelligence is what you see in movies. And yes, there are some examples where in controlled environment, they are trying to work on this general intelligence. However, most of the AI cases are very narrow. They are very specific. They are solving a specific problem for a specific user base. And the reason for that is we want the solution to be practical, to be useful, and to be profitable. At the end of the day, we will only get the investment if we show the value. So let's think a little bit about what does this mean? What does the general intelligence versus narrow intelligence mean? If you think about general intelligence, and this is Gartner's hype cycle just from last year, and it goes across a time horizon from now till 2 years, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, so on and so forth. If you look at AI general intelligence, right, it's very much at the bottom of this bell curve. It's literally at where you see the innovation drivers, right? So it's more than 10 years out. And it could, most likely going to be even further out. However, if you look at computer vision, it is plateauing. It is literally plateauing all the way on the other end, which means we have successfully delivered computer vision use cases. It is more mainstream than any other AI applications. And the use case that I'm going to share is also related to computer vision. I spoke a little bit about BI, advanced analytics, and AI, but it is very important to think what is the difference between these 3, because many a times I've seen companies confuse BI from AI, from advanced analytics, right? So a BI is basically where you take multiple data sets. You can stitch those data sets and build a report on top of it, right? So you're basically using the available data, right? Think of it as looking through your rear view mirror, right? It's looking hindsight, but as you start to look at that data, you start to bring out some inferences from there, right? And as you move from there and start thinking about forecasting, the predictive and the prescriptive model, you start to move into advanced analytics. And beyond that, when you're going into the autonomous phase, that's where you start talking about AI. So it's a long ways, right, from BI to AI. And the difficulty level and the value are also very different. BI is very quick solution. AI may be complex solution, but it may deliver a lot of value. So now that we know BI, advanced analytics, and AI, I'm going to pose a question to all of you. And let's do a show of hands, right? Show of hands if your organization has already invested in advanced analytics and AI for last 5 years or more. So you are more at a maturity level when it comes to advanced analytics and AI. Give me a quick show of hands. Okay? So I see a few, maybe 10, 12 hands up. Okay. If your organization is investing in advanced analytics and AI for last 1 to 3 years, so you've delivered some pilot use cases, perfect, I see more hands up, and you're still kind of working through it, right? Great, great. And the last one is if your organization plans to invest, so they do understand this is important, they do understand this is strategic priority, and they do want to invest, but sometimes the investment is very high, right? But they do have plans, they're talking about it, your leaders are talking about it. Let's do a show of hands on that one. Yep, so as we went from the first question to the third question, we saw more and more hands come up, right? And part of the reason is the investment in AI sometimes can be very high, right? And the failure rate at AI, as we saw, 85%, right? When you start developing these use cases and you fail the first time, you question the investment, right? As much as we would like to use the fail fast theory here, it doesn't work when it comes to getting funding for this, right? Let me tell you what happened at Intel. Intel is about more than 100,000 employees. More than 50,000 of these employees have technical skills. Thousands of these employees are AI curious, which means they want to use AI, they want to deliver use cases with AI or using AI models and tools, but we were able to only deliver a few hundred AI productized use cases. And part of the reason is these use cases fail, and then you go back to ground one, right? The investment stops. We can do better. We absolutely can do better. So why do AI projects fail? And there are many reasons, and you'll see many reasons as to why AI projects fail. But what we thought, the key reasons, the key drivers for why these AI projects fail were these three. One is lack of clear business objective. Why do you want to do AI projects? Why do you want to bring AI in your organization? Having that clear understanding, that goal setting of why is very important. The second thing is data. Like I said, any AI model adapts with data. So data is important. Is the data available? Is it landed somewhere? Is it accessible? Is it clean? So the quality of the data and the availability of data matters. And the third thing is skills, right? You need to bring in the right team with the right skills, which is important. And like I said, the AI curiosity also matters. So I'm going to dwell into each one of these. I'm going to focus a lot on the first one because we thought that was the most critical one, but I'm also going to talk about the data and the resources briefly here. So let's start with first one, and this is what we call the framework for success. The first one is around business objective, so problem articulation. And we call this AI worthy, right? There are many problems that an organization can have, your operational teams can have, but are all those problems needing AI solutions? And many a times the answer is no. There could be very few that need an AI solution. So is your use case AI worthy? The second thing is data readiness. Availability of data and the quality of data matters. The data needs to be massaged, it needs to be prepped before it even goes on an AI model. And lastly, the team composition. And I'm not just talking about the technical skills, but also the subject matter experts. So combining those skills, right, bringing them together in one room, that is what is important, and that's going to drive the trust and adoption as well. So let's talk about the problem articulation first, right? Is the use case AI worthy? And if you want to invest in AI, the use case better be complex enough, right? If it was easy to solve by a human or it was easy to solve by an automation, then you don't need an AI, right? So is it complex enough? Is it of strategic value, or is it delivering any operational value for the organization? Is there an underlying logic for the model to use, right? Is there a history around data? For example, if you want to do cycle over cycle analysis, if you want to do trend analysis, you need that data to be in some sort of a repository. Is that data available in repository, right? Do you need real time? If you're doing real time analysis, the data influx and the data output on the report is going to be simultaneous, right? So that cannot be handled with manual intervention, so you need AI. So how do we get those use cases? How do we find those use cases? Because if you go and talk to your business partners, your operations teams, and say, hey, give me a problem that I can use an AI solution on, they will be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I have hundreds of problems, right? So this is the approach that we used. An AI ideation workshop is basically a framework to gather those use cases. Think of it as an intake. To gather those use cases, to groom those use cases, and to figure out whether those use cases are truly AI worthy. And how did we do this, right? We brought in the subject matter experts along with an AI mentor to come together in room, data scientists, data engineers, and subject matter experts. When they start talking about problem statements, one of the key roles that a data scientist plays is to translate that problem statement into a use case. Just bringing them together and identifying, hey, these use cases can be solved by automation. However, we have this group of use cases which may require some AI solution. And I use the word may because at this point, we are still triaging it. We are not 100% sure whether it will, but at least we have an idea that we can use an AI solution for this. Couple of other things to assess when you are looking at the prioritization of these use cases. So now you have this group of use cases that can use AI solution. How do you pick from those, right? We started the journey thinking about, okay, what is the feasibility? So feasibility from a business standpoint, whether it's solving the right business problem, whether it has the right processes underneath. Feasibility from a data standpoint, how good is the data? What is the data quality? What is the availability, accessibility of the data? And finally, execution, so technology solution. Am I using an off-the-shelf solution? Am I building this model in-house? What am I doing here, right? That's one thing. The second thing is risk assessment. When you're doing a pilot, it is always important to start with quick wins. Because you want that funding going, you want that investment going, and you're not going to get the investment until you show some wins. So what are those low-hanging fruits when it comes to investment? And we call the danger zone, and you can see that over there in the corner there. The danger zone basically means that it requires a large amount of investment. It is so complex that it's going to take a couple of years to deliver that. So we want to stay out of the danger zone, especially when you're starting your AI journey. The third thing to keep in mind is, what's in it for me? The return on investment. Every sponsor, every exec is going to ask you, what's in it for me? And there could be some quantitative benefits, such as cost savings, revenue enablement, efficiency gains, but there could be some qualitative benefits as well, such as improving product performance, right? Building a data fluent organization, upskilling employees, right? Retention of employees, because now they're learning something new, they're doing something new. So those are also should be taken into consideration. And then, if you look at this graph, right, I call this the best choice, because if you're getting high return on your investment, but your investment is lower, I mean, that's your low-hanging fruit. That's where you need to start. But as you go down there, right, there could be an operational need where there is not so much of a value associated with it, but my operations team is really struggling. We want to help them. We want to optimize their output. So, that could be another reason. And if your investment is higher and if your value is higher, then that's a strategic objective. That's where your execs and your leaders are telling you, hey, we need to do this because this is our strategic objective. If your return is low and your investment is high, don't even bother to do those use cases, right? Okay, are we clear? We're good? Moving on to data readiness. This is one of the most important pieces of AI, right? Data is everywhere, but when you're thinking about an AI use case, you have to think about more than just the available data, right? Is the data relevant, right? I have seen many times when you start an AI use case and you go down the path of almost deploying, something changes in the organization, leadership changes, and then that information is no more relevant. That report or that analysis that you're doing is no more relevant. So the data relevance is very important. How often is the data refreshing? This matters when you're doing a real-time modeling, right? How often does it refresh? Is it a weekly refresh? Is it a real-time refresh? All that is important. Data security. We worry a lot about our information security, although a lot of our information is out there, right? It's being used. However, when you're putting together this AI model, and we saw in the last couple of weeks, couple of examples around this data security and information as a lot of new AI models are being launched in the industry. Privacy, right? What aspects of that data are classified into different categories, right? At Intel, we have multiple different classifications that we use for our data. I talked about availability quite a bit, and the reason I talk about availability a lot is it's not just enough to have the data somewhere. Is the data consumable? Can you get that data out of that system, be able to prep and massage the data, and then feed that data into the model? So availability, accessibility is very important. And last but not least, the data has to be unbiased. Otherwise, your results will be biased. So let's take a step back, right? We talked about a use case identification. So now let's think about, okay, you've identified your use cases. You know high level that there is data available. Is that good enough? You should be able to extract, transport, and load that data, right, into an AI model. You need help from your data analyst, your domain experts, your data scientists to be able to do that. That data prep work up front is basically 70% of the work. So as much as we think that, hey, let's implement an AI solution and we want to do it quick, most of the work happens really upfront in terms of getting that data ready for consumption by that model, right? And only 30% is the model development. And I've seen many a times teams get frustrated at this point, right? Because every data scientist and every ML engineer wants to directly go into the model. But putting that data together, I mean, in many companies, data is not even landed in any type of data warehouse or data lake, right? So how do you get that data? How do you make that available? Do all the massaging and do all the prepping of that data, conversion from unstructured to structure for the model to consume that data. All that work is tiring, but is critically important for the model to work. And the last but most important thing is the team composition. And when I think about the team, I'm talking about skills, but I'm also talking about AI curiosity. Because again, to reinforce, many AI use cases fail. So you want the team to continue on that journey. We do not want them to give up, right? So that's why it is important to have an AI curious team. When we think about team, we always think about the technical skills. Hey, I want to deliver an AI use case. I want a data scientist. I want an ML engineer, right? That's what we think about. And it's a good place to start. For me, a data scientist is not just a technical expert, but they have the ability to understand the business side, to understand a business problem, and convert into a relevant use case, right? A machine learning engineer is needed if you're working on developing that particular model, to do the statistical analysis, to put together a computer vision model. An AI product manager. This is the person who actually looks across the board at multiple different AI applications and tools and understands what is applicable, working with the data scientist and the machine learning engineer for this particular use case. And they take more of a broader view than a machine learning engineer or a data scientist who is very much focused on one particular use case. And finally, our subject matter experts. We are doing everything to deliver value to the business. If we are not delivering value to the business, we are not doing it, right? There is no investment if you do that. So they are very, very important because every use case starts with them. And many AI use cases, like I said, they are pretty high up in terms of complexity, so they usually span cross-organizational, right? So you need somebody who would integrate that information, who would bring those organizations together, and this usually applies for much bigger AI use cases. Last but not least, our active sponsor. This sponsor is the D. This sponsor brings in the investment, they bring in the money, and they are walking this walk with you every step of the way. When you fail, this sponsor is the one who's going to tell you, it's okay, let's go pick another use case from the pipeline, and let's keep going. So keep that scalability, that sustainability in mind as you're delivering these AI use cases. That's where this active sponsor, and I specifically use the word active, we want an active sponsor to be part of this team. So to sum this up, right, every time we think about an AI use case, we think about an idea, starting from ideation all the way to deployment. The way I think about it is ideation to deployment, but deployment into production. Because you'll be able to scale this only if you are putting these AI models, putting these tools into deployment through production environment, right? So starting with that, right, a defined use case, a prioritized, a valuable use case, right, to the business, starting there, then analyzing that use case, right, and delivering a solution that goes into production, keeping production in mind all along the way, because that's when you'll be able to sustain and deliver a long-term solution for your business. And you can come back and reuse that model for other applications for similar use cases as well. But if it is an ad hoc or one-off solution, it is not scalable. So always keep that in mind because the investment in AI is usually high. Now that you have deployed and delivered the solution, the next big thing is trust and adoption. No matter how many use cases you deliver, until your business uses that and takes the model into account, takes the recommendation of the model into account, and use that to gain that efficiency, to save that money, it's not going to deliver any value. So trust and adoption is another big piece here. Successful adoption requires proper change management, period, right? And this change management is across 3 different areas. One is people readiness. So when I said the team composition is important, what I was saying is if you bring that subject matter expert along this journey with you, that people readiness will be very easy. They are the ones who own the processes. They are the ones who are going to make sure the process transformation happens along with the tool or the system transformation. And the third piece is the technology, data, or tool readiness, which is basically getting your rest of the system, wherever you're deploying it into production, right? Getting all the rest of the systems ready so that you can deploy this into production. Change management drives motivation and a positive mindset shift to accelerate value. And accelerating value is competitive advantage. So now you have everything, right? You have your business objective nailed down, you have your risk, your ROI nailed down, you have the right team, and that team is collaborating, by the way. Let's make sure that happens too. You have your data ready. You are moving from pilot. You've delivered those. Some of you raised your hands when I said, have you delivered limited use cases, and you raised your hands. That's your pilot phase, right? Now you're moving from pilot to your production phase. Your people readiness is getting there, right? Because they are not fearing this particular AI model anymore, and they are ready to use it. Your people readiness is there. Still, AI use cases, a lot of them fail, right? And that boils down to expectation versus reality. We think AI can solve all our problems. I actually want a robot in my home which could load the dishwasher. I just don't want to load the dishwasher, right? Expectation versus reality, right? The dishwasher itself is a robot. AI culture has to be driven tops down. That's where that active sponsor comes at play, right? They are the ones who are going to make sure that their organization is not just data-driven, but the AI culture is embedded in the organization. And last but not least, keep in mind, failure is given. The point is, go back, pick another use case, and start again. This conference is about human intelligence and how human and intelligence or AI models coexist, right? And it usually starts with, I do want to deploy a solution. I understand that I want to implement this machine learning solution, but I want to be in the middle of it. I want to know exactly what the machine is doing. I want to look at the output of the machine, and I want to execute through that machine. And that's humans being in loop, right? We want to move from being in loop to being on the loop, right? And from there, moving to being off the loop. Being on the loop means you trust the machine enough that you are going to let the machine do its thing, but you are going to execute at the end of that particular output, right? And being off the loop means you actually trust the machine. You're completely hands-off. You trust the machine to execute to the right decision, the right output that comes out of that particular parameter, right? So we do want to move from in the loop to off the loop, and that's human and machine coexistence. Now, I cannot not conclude this particular session without telling you all about our story, right? So we had lots of problems that came to us, right? Only 26% of the total use cases that came to us were AI-worthy. We really went through a fine-tooth comb to identify which ones need an AI solution and which ones just need automation or BI or one of the other solutions, right? And we also went through this whole cycle of use case, quick design, deploy, right? And then come back, and then we realized, oh, well, this is not the right solution. Or this is no more a use case that matters to the business. So go back, right? Fail fast, go back, pick another one from the pipeline, and restart again. So we did that multiple times. And it was hard. It was hard, and sometimes it was disappointing. Until finally, this was one of our first ones, we delivered a successful use case in logistics. So let me talk a little bit about the problem here. In one of our warehouses, we were getting a lot of return orders in, and the packaging of those return orders was damaged. Because we were getting like thousands of these boxes every month, it was really hard to keep track of which ones are truly damaged versus which ones are just damaged because of the wear and tear during the shipping process. And we were losing a lot of revenue because of that. So we used Intel Getty computer vision solution to find a solution option for this one, right? So what we did is we fed hundreds of images of those packages to this model until the model got more than 90% accurate in terms of identifying which are those damaged goods. So it was inspecting those packages on its own and just delivering a number to us. We saved millions of dollars by doing that. We also saved many human hours in terms of doing that, just looking at the boxes and sorting through the boxes. And hey, this solution is scalable. We did this in one warehouse, and now we are doing it in other warehouses as well. So it is scalable and it's sustainable. This was one of our first solutions that we delivered using Intel Getty computer vision solution. So in summary, AI is a journey. It requires long-term investment and sponsorship. It requires a data-driven culture, and it requires a right-sized and curious team. We all live in Oregon, or most of us live in Oregon. We all are familiar with, mountain climbers and what does it take, right? And this always resonates with me because when you're climbing a mountain, you don't just climb straight up. You climb up. You have to sometimes climb down because you have to acclimatize to the weather up there. Maybe you need to take a break and you need to find a spot to take that break, right? AI journey is very similar. You will start climbing up, right? And then you'll realize, oh my God, this is no more relevant. I need to go back and pick another one from that pipeline. So you go back, you pick another one, and you keep doing that. But at some point, right, success will be yours, and adoption will be yours, and you will be able to deliver a successful, scalable, sustainable AI solution. That's my time. Thank you very much. And I didn't do this alone, so these are some of the people who helped me through this journey. And I'm opening up for questions. Yes?
Awesome, thank you so much. So with such a high failure rate of AI projects, how do you balance pursuing alternate paths at the same time to solve the same problem? Because the problem still exists. The question is AI the best solution? Do you build some logic-based model? Do you go BI? So sometimes you want to pursue multiple paths at the same time. How do you balance that with the investment and the longevity of AI projects?
Absolutely. So there are two things there, right? One is when you are analyzing that particular use case or that problem statement, make sure that it can only be solved by an AI solution. If it can be solved by a BI or an automation, go down that path. Easy. Don't invest into AI. The reason for that is those options are cheaper and they will deliver value quicker, right? So the problem articulation that I said in the beginning, right, that is very important. Unless the use case is complex enough, it has a logic that is inbuilt that you can feed into a model, it cannot be done by humans or any simple automation. Don't pursue AI.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you keep your team encouraged when projects fail and they need to continue to move on to other case studies, things like that. I know that it's important for them to continue learning, but how do you keep and develop that encouragement?
Yeah, no, it is very hard, to be honest. It is very hard because to become a machine learning engineer or to gain an expertise to get to, an AI, a data scientist, or a machine learning engineer, it takes a long time. And that expertise is very niche, right? I mean, if you look at the jobs like data scientist or machine learning engineer, they are in high demand. But there are a couple of things there, right? One is when you start this AI journey, right, in the beginning, you know that it is going to be difficult. It is not going to be easy. And having that sponsor, that active sponsor, who is continuously going to reinforce first with the investment itself, right, because you know that the money is coming in. And secondly, that collaboration with the business partners, where you start to deliver those smaller, quick wins, and then they come back to you saying, this was very helpful, this saved me X amount of time, this saved me X amount of money. That is very encouraging for the team. And that's why the third thing that I think is also important is that change management aspect. Because AI is not just about delivering that solution or that tool or that application. It is about driving a company culture to be more AI-centric, to be more data-centric. That bigger long-term vision, that North Star, is very motivating. So those are the things you have to keep reinforcing within the team when you have to keep going back to the pipeline, pick another one, and restart, right?
Hi. You had a slide just briefly that touched on fears about job replacement and ethics, like a little blip in there. And I know that we touched on like human intelligence and like that aspect in it, but I work at Intel, and a lot of things that we're doing, even in BI enhancements, have led to less need for jobs that are what's the word for like green badge? Transactional, right? And so how is like the implementation of AI continuing to, like, I know we're talking about teams of people who are enhancing the business process, and there's a focus on, does this make our business better? Mm-hmm. I know there's like encouragement, I guess, in this concept of like only X amount of projects actually go into production, right?
Yeah.
But like we also know that like there are AI ethics teams being laid off at Microsoft, and we hear about this. Like how does that all play into still the humans that need jobs here? Yeah.
And I didn't touch about AI ethics because there is a speaker who's going to talk about
cool.
that. So, but yeah, to answer your question about jobs being replaced, right? I'll take you back to the slide that I had about general intelligence versus narrow intelligence. General intelligence is where a robot or a machine is going to do exactly the task that a human can do. And that is far-fetched, right? It's been experimented in small use cases in a controlled environment, but that's still out there 10 plus years, right? most of the AI cases do need human attention to them, right? And that's the journey that I talked about, moving from being human in the loop and off the loop. So I personally don't believe that AI is going to completely replace jobs. AI is going to help us do our jobs better. And some of the tasks that we actually don't like to do, if we replace those with AI, then we can go back and do some more value-added tasks. And I think that's where the value of AI is. I think there was a question over there.
Yeah, that actually leads into my question perfectly. I really liked seeing the warehouse example. Would you say from your experience, most of the successful use cases or ones that are more AI worthy have that common element of a very tedious human task?
So the tedious task, I'm going to split into two things, right? One is if the task is repetitive and it's repeating at a certain frequency, you don't even have to go down the AI path. You can use robotics process automation for that because it is very specific for those type of use cases, right? In the warehouse example, it was much more complex than just looking at the packaging box itself, right? It was not repetitive. The frequency was not set, right? These boxes can come from anywhere at any point in time to the warehouse, and the analysis itself was tedious for human eye. Plus, there was a judgment associated when you're putting in humans in there. I may see a box as broken. Somebody else may think of it as, well, it's kind of broken. It's not really broken. But when you think about a machine, the data and the pictures and the images that you're feeding to the machine, there is going to be only one logic, and the output is going to be unbiased. And that's where the AI application, the computer vision application there, was very helpful in solving that problem. But if it is repetitive, repeating at the same frequency, and it's the same process happening day in and day out, then you can use robotics process automation. Don't need to go into AI. Okay, I think since I have just a few minutes, I'm going to just plug in one more thing. I am the co-director of Women in Big Data and the Northwest chapter. Oh, sorry, I didn't see a hand
Just
there.
the last question. Yeah.
Oh, over there. Okay.
So how do you make sure your AI models are explainable to the stakeholders, or like what are the driving forces behind it?
Yeah, so the collaboration and partnership matters. Our stakeholders don't need to know the logic or the algorithm behind the AI model. What they need to know is how that algorithm is going to solve their problem. So getting them on board from the beginning, right, that's where the workshop matters, right, where they come in and they talk about their problems, and then a data scientist and ML engineer can explain to them, hey, if we put in this algorithm, this is going to be the output, this is how you're going to deliver the value. But like I said, you need to take them on the journey with you, because when you encounter any data issues, the problem itself may change sometimes. I have seen many a times reorganization happen and the problem that you're solving is no more important to the new leader, right? That's where their own teams, their own SMEs can help them understand the value of the problem. So if they are interested, there is always opportunity to upskill them, right? If they are interested in learning, what we have done is we have done ML 101 courses for our SMEs who are interested. Just because they want to know a little bit, they don't want to know how to build the algorithm, but they want to know what the algorithm does, right? So those type of things, doing a pre-work, giving them a machine learning 101 type course, AI 101 type course helps. But in most cases, all they want to know is what is the value for me, what's in it for me if you build this model for me. Okay, I'm going to pause to see if there is any other question. Oh, there's one more in the back.
Hi, and thanks for your presentation. That was amazing. I was just thinking, I'm not a business person per se, but a lot of companies have return processes. And do you foresee Intel or companies like Intel maybe, I don't know, selling or like, I don't know what the word is, basically every company using a similar returns process that's an AI, instead of each company making their own? What do you think might happen there?
If I get your question correctly, I think you're asking about whether they find the solutions internally, build the solutions internally, or buy the solutions from others, right? Okay. It should vary on case-by-case basis, right? There are opportunities where you can just pick an off-the-shelf solution which is more standardized, and you can use that to deliver that particular use case. But in some cases, if the data is very much proprietary and you do not want to land the data in any type of data lake or a data warehouse, and you want to build an in-house solution because you're concerned about privacy and you're concerned about security, in that type of situation, you could use an internal solution or build a homegrown solution to solve that use case. But I don't think there is one answer, like one shoe fits for all in this particular case. Sometimes it is easy to just buy an off-the-shelf solution because you're saving cost in developing that solution in-house, right? But there could be need where you have to develop that solution in-house. Okay, any other question? Okay, I'm just going to quickly plug in for Women in Big Data. We have a booth in the other room there, so do visit us. Sureka here, who is the co-director with me for Women in Big Data, we are encouraging you to stop by and to volunteer with us as well. Thank you so much. Go out and do something wonderful.